God gets him.
Yeah. He's out there.
I heard. I heard you drop. You were just talking about that clock falling. Jinxed it.
I'd like to call the Maumelle City Council meeting to order. First order of business is the identification and pledge of allegiance, and I've asked Clerk Clausen to lead us in that. If you'd all please rise.
Dear Heavenly Father, we're grateful for the opportunity to gather here as city leaders and citizens and discuss the needs of this city. We pray that as we do so, we'll be guided by Thy Spirit. We're grateful for the opportunity that we have to serve, and we pray that we will do what's best for this community. We pray that Thou would bless those who serve here and serve this great nation, and do so in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Next item is special guests and announcements, and we have none of those tonight. Next item is the approval of the minutes of the May 19th regular meeting. All the council members have a copy of those minutes in their packets. Are there any corrections or additions to those minutes?
I move we approve them.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the May 19th meeting minutes. Is there any discussion on that motion? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no. Motion passes. Next item is public comment. And okay. Yeah.
Bless you.
All right. I've only got one one public comment form that's not on an item that's on the agenda tonight, and so we'll take it at this time. And Mr. Scott, I'm going to invoke the 3-minute rule on you because this is the 4th time you've been here to speak on the same item. So we'd like to hear from you, though.
Invoke the 3-minute rule. Oh, gosh. You don't know how that hurts me. Just got back from Salt Lake City. Nice drive. Bustling town. You all visit there. You all know me. I've been here 4 times already. Is that right?
Yes, sir, in a row.
Yeah. Talking about Public Water Authority. Now, I noticed on the agenda that y'all were going to be talking about an improvement district. Is this in conflict with Public Water Authority, or?
I would let the attorney answer that question, Mr. Scott.
She's shaking her head no.
Not related to
Yeah.
Public Water Authority.
The thing that continues to bother me is I don't think the city of Maumelle, the residents thereof, the people who elect y'all and me, have really understood and woken up to the fact that they're talking about a public water authority and what the effect will be. I blame the media, who's supposed to be on top of this. You give them room to come in here and report things, and yet they don't seem to report things. I've yet to see anything in any of the newspapers talking about a public water authority for Maumelle. Did you guys hear that? Public Water Authority for Maumelle? Yeah, good. Thank you. It'd be nice if it showed up in the paper so that people could read about it and say, what the heck is this? This is going to cost me money. It's going to cost people around the surrounding areas money. Potentially lost a lot of money, plus the fact they will have no say in it. As un-American an enterprise as anything that I've ever seen. And again, we have the media not reporting it. So I don't need 3 minutes to say that, or I can use up 3 minutes. Again, it's one of those things where the people of Maumelle do not know about the Public Water Authority. The people in the surrounding areas don't know about the Public Water Authority, and they need to know. So appreciate that. Is there anything more on the annexation committee? Are we still having that? Question. Anybody?
We still have a committee, yes, sir.
Is it meeting on a regular basis, or has it
It
given up? Last time I was there was no discussion whatsoever about annexation. So I just wondered.
It has not been given up.
There's no meeting scheduled at this time.
Okay, thank you. All right. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Did we get another one?
It's on
All right, okay. All right, like I say, I have about 6 more here, and they're all related to an item that's already on the council agenda, and so we will deal with those at that time. Next item is the financial statement report, and that's done at the second meeting. Next item is a procedural motion. I need a motion from the floor that we read all resolutions and ordinances by title only.
So moved.
Second.
It's been motioned second that the council read all resolutions and ordinances by title only. Is there any discussion on that motion? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no. Motion passes. We have no unfinished business. The first item under new business is the first reading of ordinance number 852, approving the formation of an improvement district. Mr. Clerk, if you'd read that by title only.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 852, an ordinance to establish and lay off the Maumelle Municipal Property Owners Multipurpose Improvement District Number 16 and for other purposes.
Okay, this is a improvement district for a subdivision that's under construction. It's being presented by Mr. David Menz, an attorney. Is Mr. Menz here?
I don't see him.
Someone else from his office is going to be here tonight for questions.
Okay.
If anyone has any questions.
Okay.
Fletcher from his office was to be here tonight. She may come in a little bit later on. Ms. Fletcher isn't here. She's here just yet.
Okay. Are there any questions on this ordinance? Alderman Mosley?
Yeah, I've been trying to really figure out where this is. Is this Mountain Terrace Estates by any chance?
Yes, sir. It is.
Okay. Is that there in Osage Falls? Is that what we're talking about?
No, sir. It's on Odom South between Manitou and the villages New Bedford.
Okay.
It's the quadplexes that are there's
Oh.
phase 1 of it's already there, and this is phase 2 of that development.
Okay. Did they do that first one the same way? Did they do the?
I can't answer that. It's a different contractor.
Okay.
Ms. Fletcher, we're on your ordinance. If you want to come to the podium, please. You may have some questions. Sorry.
Don't get settled in or anything.
Yeah. No, there's no point in sitting down.
You know, Google Maps doesn't map it here. So you know.
Well, we don't have anything to do with Google Maps, luckily. So yeah, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. So I apologize for my tardiness.
Thank you for coming. We're glad to have you.
Yeah.
No problem.
Mr. Alderman Mosley, was just asking, did they use a similar type of improvement district on phase 1 of this development?
Yes.
Okay.
Right. And this is a separate one, though. It'll be totally different and separate
That's correct.
just for this thing. Okay. That's all I've got right now.
Okay.
Okay. Are there any other questions for Ms. Fletcher? Okay. And if you want to,
You can leave.
I hated that you just got here, but I didn't know if you wanted to say anything before we started. We just started asking questions to see if you were going to show up or whatever. So, yeah.
I apologize. No, David Menz is the gentleman that's working full-time on this at our firm. He does these all over the state. He's counsel for a lot of these types of projects. As far as he's concerned, he says that this is a pretty typical, issue that he does and handles. We don't foresee anything out of the ordinary for us on our end.
It seemed like the last one we did, they were trying to raise a certain amount of money for these capital items. And is there a certain amount that you're targeting per unit that you'll be building?
I am not sure of that, to be honest with you. I don't have that information in front of me. I don't think I've seen anything that I've come across that's a target amount per unit, no.
Okay. But basically, this is something that will stay with the property until it's paid off.
Yes.
And maybe 30 years, is that?
Approximately, right.
Okay. All right. That's all I've got tonight. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Alderman Mosley. Anybody else have any questions?
No?
Alderman Kelly? Wait a
Yes,
minute.
ma'am. Does this phase complete the build-out for Mountain Terrace Estates?
I believe so, yes.
It will complete the street improvements and all the utilities. They would come in and then ultimately build the buildings on the individual lots. And, I don't think those would be pertaining to that, but it's for the improvements
Right.
for the
this-
street
this
and
is-
drainage.
Right, the
and
improvement
utilities.
part of it would be
Yeah.
complete.
Very good.
Yeah. Alderman Johnson?
Is this the one where we had to vote on another entrance for the fire company?
Yes, yes. Okay. If there's no other questions. Thank you, Ms. Fletcher. Next item is resolution number 2014-27, approving a conditional use permit. Mr. Clerk, if you'd read that by title only.
Resolution of the City Council of the City of Maumelle, Pulaski County, Arkansas, resolution number 2014-27, a resolution to grant a conditional use permit to come spend the day with us, adult daycare center.
Okay, this is a conditional use permit to allow the third different daycare center in the same retail space. And you've approved it twice before, but every time there's a new owner, it has to come back before the Planning Commission and the council because the conditional uses are for the owners of the facilities. And Mr. Neri is here to answer any questions if you have any. Alderman Lewis?
You actually answered my question. I'll go ahead and make a motion, though, that we approve Resolution 2014-27.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve resolution number 2014-27. Is there any discussion on that motion?
Does anyone know why Ms. Tatum's not here?
Yes, sir. Mr. Nair.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Jim Neri, Director of Planning and Zoning. I actually just contacted the applicant. She's probably 60 seconds away from the door.
Probably use Google Maps.
Must have been Google Maps.
She attended the subcommittee meeting and the Planning Commission meeting on this issue.
She was just around the corner. She ought to be walking in any second.
I don't have a problem.
I've got a
Just
quick
wanted to
question
know
for you, Mr. Neri.
Sir.
Was there anybody that objected to this conditional use?
It was unanimous with one commissioner absent.
Okay. Any calls or anything like that?
Not one.
All right.
Not one.
All right.
I guess they were getting used to seeing that sign out there. Kind of figured what it was going to be, maybe.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
There's no other discussion. All those in favor of approving resolution number 2014-27, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no. Motion passes. Next item is resolution number 2014-28 regarding surplus property. Mr. Clerk, if you read that by title only.
Resolution of the City Council of the City of Maumelle, Pulaski County, Arkansas, resolution number 2014-28, a resolution to approve the disposal of city surplus property.
This is the truck that's been used as the recycling truck for the past 10-plus years. Let's see, what model is it? It's 2006, so 8-plus years, I guess, that it's been used. We don't need this vehicle anymore because the way we're doing our recycling now, we don't sort it at the curb. It all goes into a regular sanitation truck. And so there's no use for this truck as far as in its current configuration. And so the Public Works has asked that this item be allowed to be sold at public bid. Alderman Johnson?
I saw it the other day, them coming around with the regular. Do they look at it and sort of make sure that there's not something in there that's supposed to be?
They do look at what they're dumping, yes, sir. It dumps into the bottom of the recycling truck, but we don't have to sort it out into the separate bins, yes, sir.
Okay.
Alderman Lewis?
I'll have a motion in just a moment, but one other question, not about the truck per se, but we had talked at one point about possibly getting some statistics and data regarding volume, which I think we probably have those on, or may have some that are coming, and then also possible contamination rate of what we drop there if they could get us that. Just wanted to put that in there that we might check on that again soon and hear about
Well,
it.
we actually, Mr. Cogdell brought me some forms last week, and we looked at them. We basically only have 2 months' worth of collection going on right now, and so it doesn't really show a trend. In fact, we actually, recycling jumped up at certain points before we started it at times. So we're trying to look at that, but we're trying to develop the best way to put it in a chart to show what's actually occurring. Also, I mean, we can give you tonnage real easy, but it doesn't.
We need more data.
Yeah, and so the contamination, we'd have to check with the receiver on that, and I'm not sure that they keep it separate, but we'll check on that and see.
I'll make a motion that we approve Resolution 2014-28.
Second.
It's been motioned second that council approve resolution number 2014-28. Is there any discussion on the motion? Alderman Mosley?
Yeah, I had a quick question. Are all of our contractual things lined up and signed and everything as far as the methods we're doing now to where we wouldn't need to go back to that truck?
Oh, yes. I mean, for a year, they're signed up. But yeah, I mean, yes, sir.
All right.
Yeah. So I mean, there's always, but I don't. Well,
Yeah, it sounds like we're
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I can't guarantee that we don't do something different in 5 years from now or something like that. But I think there's other places to go also. I mean, there are other places to take it now. You might have to negotiate a price or something like that. But I don't think you would go away from doing it the way we're currently doing it.
Sounds good. Thank you.
The commingle is the way everybody's going now. Alderman Anderson?
And the truck is over 10 years old, you said? Or
It's a 2006 model, so it's 8 years old. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So there would be no reason to store that an older vehicle like that. I think this is a good move. So, thank you.
Yeah, well, the best thing to do is go ahead and sell it if you're going to sell it while it's still in operational cost. If you park a truck, it doesn't do it much good either. So, and if you're not going to use it, that's all they'd be doing is sitting there and parked.
Exactly.
Okay. Have a motion and a second to approve resolution number 2014-28. If there's no more discussion, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no. Next item is discussion of bond projects. And that's what I have several cards on, and I think the council would want to hear the comments before we go into discussion among yourselves. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. All right. First one I have is from Miss Marion Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Marion Scott, 12 Spring Drive. I saw the results of the bond survey, and the people have pretty much spoken, although I'm sure that there are some who would question the viability of a survey with such a low response. I mean, it's a statistical sampling, but it isn't the voice of all of the citizens, and I'm sure we'll hear from others tonight. What my request is not so much what is or is not included in a bond issue, but just that we be extremely prudent and careful not to jump the gun. You know, if we decide on, say, the 3 projects that met greater than a 50% approval rating, we want to, an expression I've used before, we want to measure twice and cut once. We shouldn't be in a hurry to get something on the November ballot just because it's November. If we decide that these are the things that the citizens want, as a taxpayer and a citizen myself, I would just as soon see it done right rather than quickly. So I just hope that when you are considering what projects you're going to do and when they're going to do it, don't let the calendar force you into a decision that maybe isn't the best one for everyone.
Thank you, Ms. Scott. Next one I have is from Mr. Adam Hazen.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm coming to you as a supporter.
State your name and address for the record, please.
Adam
I'm sorry.
Hazen, 107 Nantucket Loop, Villages of New Bedford. I'm coming to you as a supporter of the Indoor Aquatic Center, and I'm coming to you as a parent and a resident of Maumelle. I want to thank Mayor Watson for putting in the additional time. I was at several of the bond task force hearings, and Mayor Watson has spent the additional time to gather additional information in terms of the finances, so I'm not going to talk about that. Ironically, my son Spencer couldn't be here because he's at swim practice at the North Little Rock Boys and Girls Club. Anybody know where that is?
Yeah.
It's not the nicest area of town, you know, and he swims sometimes at 5:30 in the morning, sometimes at 7:30 in the evening as a competitive swimmer. We added up one time how many over the last 4 years, how much time we had spent in the car going to the North Little Rock Boys and Girls Club, and it came out to just over 16 days at 20 minutes a pop, roughly 20 minutes a pop. If we were in Maumelle, it would be about 3 days. When I first came to Maumelle 10 years ago, we lived in 7 different states. And in 7 different states, we had little kids, and we always paid $70 to $85 a month for YMCA membership, or in one case, Lifetime Fitness, somewhere where there was a pool, there was a gym, there was some place for the kids to play. When I first got to Maumelle, the very first day, the real estate agent took me around. I said I wanted to look at Maumelle. Where's the first place she took me? The community center. And I saw that pool. It was in May of 2005, and I saw that pool, and I went, holy cow. And this is how much? You know, I mean, it's a tremendous asset for us to have. And then you look at, you know, Spencer, we're lucky enough to be able to have him swim full time, year-round. He swims in a competitive league, the Central Arkansas Sports Club Racers. And so he swims all over the state. I didn't realize what a swimming community we had here in Arkansas until we got here. We never had that anywhere else. And so that's very important to note. I would ask anybody who is concerned about the biggest problem facing our youth today is childhood obesity. Go to a swim meet. See how many go to a competitive swim meet. See how many out-of-shape kids there are at a swim meet. There aren't. Trust me. I mean, we've been to plenty of them. There may be some that may be heavy because people are big, people are small, but they're not out of shape. We're not asking for anybody to, the supporters of the Aquatic Center, not asking for anybody to put it on the November ballot, or we would hope that it would be. All we're asking is to give the whole citizenry a vote. To be able to say whether they want this or not just a 4% sampling. You know, unfortunately, that didn't come back as well as I think everybody would have liked. I personally agree with the baseball and softball fields, and I know Director Rayburn spent some additional time working on the Aquatic Center as well. The senior center I agree with. I even like the idea, I'm not sure which one of you gentlemen or ladies brought it up, about the new City Hall / Justice Center. I think that's a great idea if it could move along quicker. Lastly, there's been some talk about in our local newspaper about soccer players and baseball players and how many kids are out there playing soccer and playing baseball, and how many of them would really want to swim full time. But you don't know because they don't have the chance. You know, they don't have the opportunity to go swim competitively like we do, or practice in the facilities like we do, like we would be able to here. And by the way, the CASC racers pay a lot of money to rent pool or lane space in the North Little Rock Boys and Girls Club. So that's money that could be spent here. I'll let the additional folks talk, and I appreciate each one of your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hazen. Next, we'll hear from Mr. Perrin Andrews.
I want to thank you. So I know a lot of what he said about the racers is true because myself, I was a racer swimmer for about 2 years. I had to stop, unfortunately, because of the amount of time it took us to drive out there. It was taking away from time I could be at home studying or doing homework. It just wasn't convenient to go out every night, 20-minute drive out there, 2-hour-long practice, 20-minute drive back home. So that definitely affected our life, I'm sure. Like he said, the racers do spend a lot of money on those lane spaces, and that's money that could be going into a Maumelle pool here in town. So not only do I swim competitively, I swim with the Marlins as well. This past year I started coaching. I'm an assistant coach with the Maumelle Marlins. Recently I started working with Safety Before Skill, teaching swim lessons, and both of those are great opportunities for me to be in the water and to see other kids in the water as well. Kids as young as 1 to 2 years old all the way up to we even have adults that come out and are given swim lessons. And I can tell you from a first-hand standpoint that all of that is very important to the well-being of these citizens, to just their happiness level. I see kids that come in crying and bawling and don't really want to do anything, and they walk out of there not wanting to leave. They're crying and bawling because they have to go home, not because they just got wet. I can tell you that while swimming may seem to some people who aren't familiar with the sport, may seem just as a recreational thing, not something that you would do full-time and competitively, I can tell you that it is a very competitive thing. As Mr. Hazen had said, there are a lot of people that turn up to these swim meets. As I know that this has been said at bond task force meetings before, there are a lot of people that show up to these meets. If we have those people come in for a weekend-long meet, things that I've been to before in Fort Smith, there are a lot of people that come in, they'll pay for hotels, they'll pay for lunch and dinner and everything in our town. So while maybe the pool, which it will pay for itself, but in the case that maybe the numbers don't look great, I promise you the benefits it has on the surrounding community will shine through as well. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Andrews. Ms. Karen Lamoureux.
Good evening. Good to see you again. Sorry. Karen Lamoureux, 10 Hollybrook Cove. It's been my pleasure to serve on the task force for this bond ordinance project over the last year. For those of you that may be new to the council, just to refresh your memory, the people that are speaking here tonight, along with many others who couldn't be here tonight from the swim community, have been asking for an indoor pool for 10 years. This is not a new topic. Every time this is on the city council agenda, the residents of Maumelle come before you and beg to be heard. I'm going to say the same things that I've been saying for the last 2 years, common sense reasons as to why we can and should have an indoor pool. But before I get into that, let me just do some simple math, because there's a lot of fear-mongering going on with regard to this topic. And the fear myth that's out there is that our O&M on this project is going to cost us $500,000 a year, and that sounds like an atrocious number, and we're never going to be able to do it, and we're especially never going to be able to do it unless we add another tax onto the citizens of Maumelle, and that's baloney. Let's do some simple math. No fancy spreadsheets, huh? Okay, and no Common Core math. Now, you sent out about 7,000 surveys. You got about 772 back, and my understanding is that about 40% of those were in favor, generally in favor of the pool. As was mentioned by our first speaker today, that's not statistically a representative sample of the city. Okay, I've already talked to several people in our city who said they never got the survey, and these are people who are very pro indoor aquatic center. Okay. The population of Maumelle is 17,500 people. If you got 10% of the city of Maumelle to pay $25 a month in membership to that pool, you're going to clear $525 million in gross revenue right there. If you get 20% of the Maumelle population, that's just 3,500 people, to pay $25 a month in a membership, that's $300 a year, you're going to clear $1 million. That's just a $25 membership once a month. That doesn't include all of your other revenue generators like you're going to have. Birthday parties, swim lessons, contracting your pool out for lane rental to the 2 big swim teams that we have here that have 200 swimmers on them. When I look at what they're paying to rent lanes from me and the North Little Rock Boys and Girls Club and some of these other places, you're looking at least another $10,000 a year just in swim team money. Then you add on what they generate when they have meets. Then you think outside your box and you think about what it's going to do for our city. When we take our kids to North Little Rock and all of these other, West Little Rock and Little Rock, we're stopping at the Chick-fil-A. We're stopping at the Burger King. We're stopping in their Walmart, their Hallmark, their Kroger. Because as parents, we're living in that minivan and we're trying to condense all of our errands. So who's getting our sales tax revenue? Not Maumelle. My business alone, I own a swim school. All we do are private lessons. We don't do those cash cow group lessons. We do one-on-one lessons. I've got a very small profit margin, very small. Over 30% of my clientele is from the Maumelle base. I would love to be able to rent lanes from my own city in which I live than from a pool in West Little Rock and generate about $30,000 a month in private swim lessons. But right now, you're giving that money away. You're giving about $5,000 a month in rent that I'm giving to somebody else. You are giving that away to Chenal Valley. There is money to be made here. You're passing up. If you don't get this on the ballot and you don't give the people in Maumelle a chance to make their voice heard, you are passing up a critical opportunity to grow this city. And we're going to lose young families to Saline County. And you're going to lose your senior citizens with regard to the aging in place that's mentioned in our strategic plan. When the knees give out, they can't run anymore. When the knees give out, they go to the Hayes Center in North Little Rock to get their exercise. They should be able to do that here. They shouldn't have to commute over the river to go exercise. Guys, this is easy. This is a no-brainer. This is a revenue generator. It's not a burden. And you don't need a sales tax, Preston Lewis, to make this happen. All you need is to hire somebody that knows how to manage a pool. I'm not saying that's going to be me because I don't want that job. I got enough to do. You hire somebody to be an aquatics director who knows how to program a pool. You put that person in place and let it go. Everybody else is doing it. We can too. Please get this pool on the ballot. We've been fighting for this opportunity to vote on it, and it needs to be during an election where we have the highest voter turnout possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lang. Next speaker is Ms. Kathy Marshall.
Good evening. Kathy Marshall, 124 Montpelier Drive. I am one of the assistant parent reps for the Maumelle Marlins summer swim team, but I also have a daughter that swims full-time for the Racers, and I had a son that did that for a year, but then he wanted to be with friends, so he's doing soccer, but he still swims for the Marlins. I have 6 children, 5 of whom are on the summer swim team, and like I said, I have a daughter who swims full-time, and we swim at the North Little Rock Boys and Girls Club as well, and if you've been to that facility, they have a pool. It's kind of scary. You get further in, the bathrooms are really scary. And when people were talking about a 20-minute time frame to get there and back, that's optimistic to me sometimes in traffic when your child's practice starts at 5 p.m. and you have to get there and then you're coming back in traffic. I've had, when there's an accident or something like that, I've had, okay, I'm not going to get home for an hour, so good luck, kids, that sort of thing. Because since I have 6 children, I try to get my daughter there and then come home, do dinner, and then go back to pick her up. So we go back and forth and back and forth. And then I have a daughter as well who's a sophomore at the high school. She'll be a junior next year. She's been on the high school swim team. And for the high school swim team, they looked around. It was, maybe we'll go to Conway in the mornings, or maybe we'll go to one of the Dolphin Laser facilities, which is the racket club or the athletic club. We ended up going to Euler with a bunch of other high schools, but it was hard because you'd have like 2 lanes or whatever with all the high schools that are in there practicing at night. So, and then we had, this was the first year for the high school swim team, when we started putting out feelers of who would want to be on the swim team, I think we had 17 to 20 kids that were originally interested, but then when it became, we have to go all the way to Euler for practice, we only ended up having like 10 swimmers that stuck with it and worked with that. So it was hard, but if we had a pool here in Maumelle, you wouldn't only have the high school, the Maumelle Marlins that could start practice earlier. Like we have our first swim meet this Saturday, and we've had practice for several weeks, but because of weather and rain and stuff, we haven't been able to have practice. So we don't compete as well against Bryant or Sherwood and those who have indoor pools that they can actually have practice. And Perrin talked about kids crying when they came to practice and stuff. It's usually my kids are crying, it's cold, I don't want to get in the water. Get in the water, you have to practice. So if they had an indoor facility that would eliminate those sorts of problems. I'm trying to think of everything I wanted to say. Anyway, so I would be in support of a indoor pool. We've been here for 8.5 years. My daughter and son are the ones that came home 5 years ago and said, we want to join the swim team, we want to join the swim team. I'm like, okay, let's try it. And they turned out to be really good. So it's been a good sport for us. As far as the survey goes, I received the survey in the mail, and I filled it out, and then I was like, okay, where do I turn it in? I'll have to actually go there, or it said online. So I went to the online, and I clicked it, and it took me to some thing. I was like, I already have that on my computer, so I wasn't finding the link online, so then I had to physically bring in my survey, so that wasn't very convenient because I did do it because it's important to me, but anyway, that online link didn't work for me, and I know a lot of people saying, oh, it didn't work for me, so that, people who get busy and, oh yeah, I was going to fill that out, but I didn't get it in, so I don't know that was a good representation of what the people feel. So I do think it's important to give it a shot, get it on the ballot, and let's see what the people of Maumelle say. And Karen Lamoureux says it better, as far as running the business, you have to have vision, because I grew up in Utah, and there were pools like in Bountiful that would start off with one indoor pool and then build, now they have a diving tank, now they have the Olympic pool size, and go on from there, and they generate revenue constantly and that sort of thing. So if we have a bigger vision, these things will be able to be accomplished. Thank you.
Thank you. Next one I have is from Mr. Mark Bugg.
My name is Mark Bugg, 21 Crystal Mountain Lane, formerly 232 Summer Valley Circle. I used to be Rick's neighbor. Now he's mad at me for moving. So, I am the high school swim coach, and so I'm sure that you're thinking I'm going to stand up here and really hate the pool, right? So, obviously, I have a bias here, in the fact that I would love to see an aquatic center. I would love to see that in our city. I share the same story with the others here, and pretty much everybody's said everything that I could say, here. When I came here, they drove me around town and they go, look at the facilities here, look at the baseball fields, look at the pool, look at what is here. And I think that this bond issue gives us a great opportunity to enhance our city even further, whether it be through the pool, through the baseball fields, through the softball fields. I think this is an opportunity for us to be able to grow our city and make our city a better place to live, bring other families in. We would love to see more families in Maumelle enjoying the lifestyle we have. I share the story with my colleagues here that we spent a lot of time in the car traipsing my daughter around for swimming, and that in and of itself is not a justification to build a pool. My inconvenience is hardly a justification to go spend a whole lot of money. But with that being said, there are so many in that case. There are so many people that were in my shoes who are looking at, boy, I'm looking to move homes, which I did recently. And my first thought, I'm moving to Little Rock because I can be next to where my kids do their activities, because that's where everything is. That's where my kids spend their time. That's where we spend our money. Dunkin' Donuts has more of my money than I care to admit to, because when my wife is over there, she is frequenting the Dunkin' Donuts. So I think that, for me, this really is an opportunity for us to be able to have those real estate people driving around and going, yeah, it's worth it to pay a little extra. It's worth it for those property values that are a little bit higher in this city. It's worth it because look at the amazing amenities here. And I think we have an opportunity here, and you as the council have an opportunity to be able to grow our city and make our city that jewel in Arkansas. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bugg. Last comment card I have is from Miss Nancy Swankhouse.
I guess by now you all know who I am in such a mess I am. But I'm very passionate about this. And when I get the survey in, I told my husband right away, whoever write this question, must be very much against the aquatic center, because all of the other things, nobody say how much it need to be spending on it, how much this and what tax we have to pay for it, or any of those things. But the aquatic center, not only it has the cost, which is the highest I can say, and the how to run, how much it need to run, how much each people have to pay to belong to it, which is not true, because we belong to the swimming pool before, and it's only cost us $25 a month. So even if you get it to $30, I don't think too many people complain about it. The second thing is that you all know that the baseball is very good. If you have all the money, you can do all of them. But the baseball is very good, but it's only for kids. The senior center is very good, which I belong to it, but it's only for senior. The aquatic center is good because it's go from burn until death, which is everybody who want to do it. So just by that you can see how good aquatic center can do to all of us. And we're supposed to be one of the richest county in the state. And this morning I see Pine Bluff is even talking about having a pool, inside pool. And Fort Smith have it. Everybody else have it. And for us to be strong and healthy and don't spend money on, for all of the other things, we have to have an aquatic center. Second thing, we have how many schools here? We have the high school, the middle school, the Pine Forest, the charter school, all of those kids. If we have a pool here, a lot of parents would take them swimming. And we live right on the river, on the creek. They should know how to swim. So I would ask you to put it on the thing and let everybody have a chance to vote on it. The survey is very partial. Thank you.
Alderman Lewis.
Can I ask a question to Ms. Swankhouse?
Yes.
Okay. I am curious. She said $25 was what she was paying for rights to swim. What location is that? I'm just out of curiosity.
$25 a month, that would be about $300 a year.
What location are we talking about?
Odom. It's $85 for an individual to belong to the pool right now, for the outdoor pool.
Okay, I just want to figure that out.
So they're not paying $25 to swim at the Odom Center. Now, they may be paying that to take a class or something like that, but it's $85 to join the pool, which is about 15 weeks is how long the pool is open for an individual membership.
Okay, thank you.
I don't think it's 25 for seniors either. I believe it's 63 or something like that if you look on our website. Right.
That's fine. I was just wondering if there was an indoor facility she was referencing there. Now that I know it's the outdoor, that's
I think it was the outdoor pool.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I want to say one thing. Something was mentioned that a lot of cities have them. Most of those cities use a tax to pay for those pools. I mean, almost every pool that our Parks and Rec director checked with, they have some kind of tax to fund their pool operations. And then there was something about the survey was written to basically be partial against the pool. The survey was written, and every single project had a cost, and it had an O&M expense, an annual O&M expense for every project that was on there. It was listed, so it was not written partially. It did ask about a membership fee, and it asked about a sales tax on the pool because that's a new facility, completely new facility. All the rest of them, we have an existing facility for those other than the pedestrian overpass or underpass, and you're not going to charge a fee, or you'd have to pay someone to sit down there and collect a toll booth or something. So you're not going to do that. But baseball and softball does have membership fees that they pay. You pay at the Senior Wellness Center, you pay an existing fee. You don't pay to come to City Hall, but that's why they were there. And there was something else, and I didn't write it down. But every project had its own O&M cost that was related to it. But that's so it was not partial to any project over another. Those surveys started out a one-page survey, and with everybody's input and everything, it grew to 2 pages, trying to make sure that they were as fair as they were, and listing everything that we could list on there. And based on council input and people that had represented the projects on the bond task force, that's why it turned into a 2-page report. Oh, I know what it was. If you tried to fill out the survey online on an iPad, it's not going to work. An iPad will not work on that. Now, it would work great if you would just click on it and you had the latest version of Adobe. You can shake your head no. We keyed in 250 of them here at City Hall by just going to the same website. So if you had the correct Adobe Reader version, it would work. I mean, I had 2 different personnel working on it here at City Hall. It worked fine for them. They didn't have to get any help on it. It would not work on iPads. It did not work. It did not function on iPads. If you're using a Mac or something like that, it may not have worked either. But as far as if you're on a Windows-based computer, it would work. And you could drop them off here free, or you could mail them back. So there was not a problem. And the reference that it was 4%, we got 10% of the ones we mailed out back. So that's 10%. You're not going to have 2-year-olds fill out surveys. So that's where the percentage where they came in with 4%, you're not going to have everybody return them. So, I think it's as fair as it could be. We gave a 2-week time frame. That gave everybody plenty of time to fill them out and get them back in. But there was not any partiality given to one project on the other. In fact, one of the ones that scored over 50% was on the back also. I heard that people didn't know to turn it over, but we didn't get one side filled out. So, we didn't get a front side only filled out. So people knew to turn them over that returned them. But I've heard all that. Not tonight, but I've heard all that. So I just wanted to clarify that. Any comments from the council? Alderman Johnson?
This question, or is this the only one we're going to discuss, or are we going to discuss them all? Or
Well, that's why I said, is there any comments from the council? I mean, everybody that's here is in support. Everybody that spoke so far was talking about the indoor pool, other than Miss Marion Scott. She spoke to every project, I believe, is what she was referring to.
Well, I will voice an opinion. I certainly think the ones that got better than 50% deserve to be on the ballot or on the votes. That's just my opinion. They at least got 50% of the people that were polled. Now, as far as the pool, I don't have a problem if we throw it in as a 4th item, because I think it meets, if you take the 3 that got 50%, and you take the one that got the next most, all total, I think there's enough money in the bond issue. It'll be very close to cover it. Now, the issue of whether or not we can fund the total operation of it, that's a different story, and everything like that. Do we want to put a quarter of a percent on it? But I think the 3 projects that got better than 50%. I think they're legitimate projects and everything. I don't have a problem if we throw the 4th in, and I believe, Mike, if you add it up, I think it's right at $16 million. If you add those four projects up, I don't have it right hand.
I haven't added it up.
But it's right in our range, I think. That's just my opinion. I don't have a problem with putting it on there. Now, the only question is, if we get a pool and we don't have the money, then we'll have to go back to the people for a sales tax.
Alderman Anderson?
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with Alderman Johnson. We definitely need to support the ones that get over 50 or 51%. I am a little bit leery about the low turnout and the statistical value of it, of the survey. But I guess it is important to to the people. But I also think that the pool is important to the people, and I think that there was probably maybe some communication. I don't know all the reasoning, but we're definitely getting a lot more communication about this topic, obviously. And I think I've always been saying from the beginning is that we need to give all of our citizens the opportunity, whether it's going to be on November's ballot or on another ballot in the future. I do support the idea of giving the citizens of Maumelle the opportunity to vote for this project. Now, that being said, we do need to think about the operating costs. I know Karen Lamoureux, or Miss Lamoureux, had a very good speech about that we will never need that quarter-cent sales tax. But that's kind of speculation, and we've had other meetings about speculation, and that's not a very good topic. I think if we're going to do this project, we need to take the ideas that other communities have done in supporting this type of a project. I mean, let's not reinvent the wheel. It's obviously working for other communities that are in close size to us in population. So I think if we were going to put this on the ballot, we definitely need to think about having a quarter-cent sales tax. Whether we put a sundown, if we take it away, if we reach certain margins, I don't know about all those details, right? But we do need to have some sort of, at least in the beginning, of a quarter-cent sales tax. So that's how I support this measure. And maybe we are going to do, or I think we should do what Alderman Johnson suggested, and to have the 4 on the ballot. Thank you.
Alderman Hogue.
I absolutely agree with Alderman Johnson. I think the first 3 that got over 50% or 50% or over are no-brainers. They belong on the ballot. I think the swimming pool, the aquatic center is, though it wasn't quite 50%, I think we should have that 4th one on the ballot. We need to allow the citizens of Maumelle the opportunity to vote. If the citizens of Maumelle want the aquatic center, they'll vote yes. If they don't, they will vote no. And then at least they will have spoken and will know where they stand. I believe there is support for the aquatic center. I also believe that we probably need to go ahead and have the quarter-cent sales tax on there with it. And if we are going to do the quarter-cent sales tax, I would like us to consider a quarter-cent sales tax, period, that will go into general fund so that we won't be hampered on what we can use that money for. If we need it for the swimming pool, that's where it needs to go. If we need it for Parks and Rec, that's where it needs to go. But if we need it for something else in the city, we need to be able to move it to that area as well. So I am in favor of all 4 units. I would like to have the quarter-cent sales tax, but I would like it to go into the general fund for wherever we need the money.
Alderman Mosley.
I've heard a lot of figures and a lot of talk about high demand for pools and swimming and things. I come from I grew up in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and there in Tulsa we had all the junior high and high schools. It seemed like had swimming pools there. It's just foreign to me that the school system doesn't provide swimming pools. I'd be curious to know if somebody has some comments on that, or why the public schools. Why does the city need to be looked at? Why not public schools if they're going to have swim teams?
Let's have coffee.
And is it not something that can be done privately? What about a YMCA? Why not approach? Is it not I mean, do they say it's not economical? Is it something a private entity can't do?
They had a lot of mismanagement. We're being run as a nonprofit.
All right, Mr. Mosley, if you're going to have a conversation with Lamro, I'm going to bring her back up.
I'm sorry. But anyway, I would be interested in both those two things. Otherwise, I'll pass it now. Thank you.
Okay. Alderman Johnson?
I got to make this comment. I think to Mr. Alderman Mosley, first of all, on that issue, I think if we hadn't had busing for all these 25 years, we'd probably have pools. But we did. Now, one of the things that Alderman O presented here tonight, if you attach the 0.25% to the pool, that's immediate. There's an element of people that vote 40% against the tax. Let them vote against the tax as a separate issue. I like what she said. Let's let it go to the general fund, and we'll disperse it. But if you attach that to the pool, then that's a negative right off to start with. Hey, there were people that, in other words, I think we ought to have that 0.25%, but I like what she said. Let's have it for general fund, because there are points that we can look at between now and 2020 where things are getting mighty tough. We got new firemen coming on. We got a new fire station coming on. We got a lot of things. I like what she said. And that gives them an equal shot at a yes or no for the project.
Well, all sales taxes go into the general fund on something like that. So that's going. I mean, Parks and Rec gets their budget from the general fund.
Right. I understand.
And it would have to be a separate ballot question. It's not going to be listed under the pool that says, this. Now,
that wasn't the way it was in the poll, was it?
Well, it wasn't that way in the survey, no. But that's because the discussion came about with the sales tax only on the pool discussion. And so that's where it was at. So maybe it would have been fair if it was a separate question, but I don't know. But on the ballot, it will have to be a separate question. You will vote for each project separately, a yes or a no, and you'll vote for the sales tax. Now, the question comes into being there if it's, are you going to tie its passage with the construction of the swimming pool? So let's say the swimming pool passes at the polls, but the sales tax fails. Then the council's got to make the decision, do you move forward with it? And the citizens may feel like, well, they voted for a pool at one and you didn't allow it to move forward. So that's a question that you need to be careful how you put out there in that sense, so that you make sure that it's covered. Now, I'm sure Mr. Spivey and our city attorney can draft something up that's binding on that, but if that's the way you want it. But that's what we're going to have to be careful on, is make sure that if you vote on any of them, then maybe the sales tax should have to go through. I do want to say one thing, and this, I agree that the three projects that had 50%, but I've actually had a little bit of, I originally 2 years ago proposed City Hall renovation, and I proposed a pool project. They didn't go forward for understandable reasons, but what I want to point out is Alderman Lewis pointed out that we might want to look at a different place to do city facilities at. So the problem is, if we put a ballot forward with the City Hall project the way it is, that's a renovation project at this location. And so therefore, to build one at a different location, we're not going to be able to build it for the same amount of money that the renovation of this building would occur at. Or even use the funds. We couldn't even use those funds. So that's the question. So, this has all come up recently. We've purchased 6 acres. There's been thought about moving something there. So my only concern there is, do you move forward with a project just because it scored 50%, but it's not the right idea in the future? Now, I want City Hall renovated. I'm tired of leaks in this corner right here. I'm tired of leaks in my office. But I think that's what we need to be careful on, is don't just put it on the ballot just because it got 50% necessarily either. If it's the right thing to do, then that's what we do. But if it's not, we don't. Alderman Norris?
How many surveys were sent out?
7,720.
So we got
exactly 10%.
exactly 10%. I didn't need the calculator for that.
And only 20% of the registered voters vote in an election, and there's only it's somewhere between a third and a half of the citizens are registered voters also.
Yes, what I did was I just took a look on my phone. I wasn't playing around. There was 12,004 registered voters at the time of the last bond election. We had 2,019 people vote at the last special election for the bond, which came in at 16.8%. And I'm just saying that to put the poll in context with the amount of people who went to vote at a special election. Obviously different issues. And I think that's something that it's noteworthy. The next thing is I am not in favor of a sales tax that is not linked to a pool or to Parks and Rec or some earmarked for this purpose. Just right off the bat. And to be honest, I'm really up in the air about the pool. I know the pool has the most avid, loud, the people
loud.
here looking at me. No, but on the other hand, passionate. Yes. Absolutely. By far, I think that is the case, and I don't think anyone here will disagree with that. But then when I look at the survey, if we're supposed to value this survey, I have 15% more people saying no to the pool. And one of the things that I've been hearing the whole time is that we need to be going with what the people want. And if we're doing that based off of households that signed up as opposed to the people who showed up, it just makes it hard for me. And I can go either way, but I just wanted to share that, remember, the majority of people that took the time to fill out the survey said no to the pool. And we've heard some people didn't get one, or some people, like me, filled it out and then forgot to mail it in. It's still sitting on my computer desk. So that happens, even with folks like me. But there's no reason to believe that percentage of people would have voted more in favor one way or more in favor the other way. So I think they kind of cancel each other out. But those are my thoughts.
Thank you, Alderman Norris. Alderman Anderson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What we were saying about adding things to the ballot and what Ms. Marion Stott said is, don't get caught up in the time frame of putting things on so we can get it on the November ballot. And I think that goes for not only if we don't want to do the pool at this election, but also for the renovations, or maybe we might change that to actually building another facility. So what I would suggest is if we want to hold off on that, then that's fine, but we need to remember as a council that that was something that was in favor by the people, 51 or so %, right? I still think that we should put the pool on the this ballot because it has been asked for many years before us, before this council. I'm not sure how that we can make a mechanism to attach it to the Parks and Rec, because, like Mayor Watson said, it's hard to attach an earmark to something that comes out of a general fund. Now, we might be able to do that, but I do understand where you're coming from, Alderman Norris, that you don't want to just put a tax out there that's going to go on forever, because that's something that I feel uncomfortable about too also. That's something that we can try to discuss more about, but I think that we need to definitely put the ball field project on this ballot because it's been supported from day one. Okay.
Absolutely.
you know, if we want to hold off on the other projects that were supported, then that's okay. But we probably need to remember that those are things that were supported by the people.
Thank you, Alderman Anderson. Alderman Johnson.
Well, I have to agree with you on the ball fields. I don't think they're adding any additional expense. Those were promised to the people many years ago and fell short of the funds, and I think it's a no-brainer. They got over 50% and everything. Then the two issues is the Senior Wellness Center and City Hall and everything, and I think Alderman Lewis came up with a heck of a proposal and everything like that, and we need to juggle those and everything like that. But even at that, we're not going to change the situation with the pool. What we're asking for is a vote for the pool. Now, the sales tax, that's a different animal. I have no problem with the pool going on there, on the ballot, and finding out how the people really feel about it. Because I think we attach the tax to it and everything. Well, you know, hey, if we can't afford it, as we get into it, we'll find out that quick too. But anyway, I think the ball fields, and I don't have a problem with the pool. The other two projects that need more investigative time and on it and everything, from Alderman Lewis' suggestion, there may be a different way or a better way. We don't want to screw those up, and I think that's probably what some of the people were talking about, you know.
Totally agree.
Marion Scott in particular, you know, let's analyze it real close. And, hey, I think we could have a fast track on even those maybe and get them analyzed and looked at. Because I think we got till July to get them on the November ballot, as I remember.
Well, you got to pass it in August, but to get it to 3 separate readings, you got to start in July. The question is, could you do a fair analysis of what the cost would be? I don't think you could. I think you're rushing it if you try to do that, especially the City Hall. Now, the Senior Wellness Center, it's planned for a new location, so we just have to sell some land to the Senior Wellness Center that the city just purchased, so at a premium price. So yeah,
feeling great.
Price just went up after we bought it. So yeah.
As soon as we bought it,
yeah. I do want to say one thing though: the ball fields were not necessarily promised to the citizens. There was an additional softball field promised. There was never 5 fields on any drawing that was planned. There was one additional one, and there's 2 t-ball fields that were never part of the original baseball. But so there is one additional field that was not able to be constructed due to the amounts that were bonded in 2004 and when the bids came in. So there was 1 field, not 2, and that's been put out there by several people that they were promised 5 fields. No, they weren't. There was 4 on the drawing. So
there were 5 softball fields.
No, there was 4. I can show you the map. There was 4. There was never 5.
The bottom line is two of the new fields are going to T-ball, which back then T-ball wasn't a big thing. That's one of the big sports now for the kids under 6, I guess, or whatever. So, but anyway.
Alderman Hogue.
I want to address the tax a little bit again. There's communication that you want to attach the tax to the aquatic center or Parks and Rec. Well, it really doesn't, unless I'm wrong, and you tell me if I am. If we attach that tax to Parks and Rec, and they get, it's earmarked for Parks and Rec, then what we do is reduce their budget, and we use that money for general fund. What's the difference?
Well, that's a good point.
It's not necessarily different. You won't reduce their budget. You'll reduce what you take out of the general fund,
right?
Well,
and supplement with what comes out of that particular.
But you may not reduce their budget. You may have to increase their budget.
Well,
I mean that's it's an estimate on the O&M and everything. But let's say, and I'm saying 10 years down the road, you may have to replace a major unit or something like that, and then you may have to increase their budget. You may not be able to reduce their budget, and you're definitely not going to be able to reduce it necessarily the first year till you know what your operating costs are, till you know what your electric bill is going to be, your gas bill is going to be, your water bill is going to be.
But if that quarter-cent sale tax is earmarked specifically for you still think there's no adjustment to their budget? I mean, not to their budget, but to which fund their money comes out of?
I don't understand the question. I guess all their money comes out of the general fund.
Correct.
Now, if
we put this on there so that the quarter-cent sale tax is designated specifically.
I didn't say it was designated specifically for the pool.
I said there was verbiage about that.
Right. Well, but I think the discussion that was held at the workshop that we had, it was tied to that the sales tax would cover the O&M costs, basically, for the pool. Now, that is correct. I mean, if you put it, I mean, it's semantics almost in a way, but if you say, if you put on the ballot of the pool that we cannot build this pool unless the sales tax initiative also passes or something like that, that's where I'm saying the verbiage would be. It wouldn't be directly in the budget item that you're working on when you get to the budget meetings. Also, if the membership fees covers it, I hope Ms. Lamoureux's right. If the budget fees cover it, then you won't be increasing necessarily the Parks and Recs budget. And you would just be increasing the general fund of the city to be used in any department that needed it. So therefore, I don't know, but if you may spend $250 out of or you get revenue is $250 out of memberships, and then you have to supplement it $200 out of the tax. So I can't sit here and tell you what impact it's going to directly have on the budget.
And I guess I wasn't completely clear. I was assuming that this passed.
Okay.
So,
and I would say, there's a lot of issues. The first year that you're in operation, hopefully the O&M costs are going to be very low other than the utilities, because probably the first couple of years, everything for a year will be under warranty, and hopefully you won't have a major expense for the first couple of years on an item or something like that. Now, there's no guarantee of that. I mean, you can build something and a year later a pump can go out year and 1 day after you constructed it and it's not covered under warranty. But hopefully, you wouldn't run into something like that. So the first couple of years your O&M costs may be less than we estimated. But you do have the operational cost. The maintenance is what you're going to be reduced on. And I will tell you, part of our O&M cost is based on the number of lifeguards that we use, that a lot of cities don't use lifeguards near to the fact that we do. And we think it's important that we have lifeguards there for both pools when they're in operation. Alderman Mosley?
Yeah, I just thought I'd go ahead and put forth my thoughts that I've voiced about 2 months ago, or not 2 months ago, but about a month ago on the whole bond idea. Again, and I don't think my mind has changed at all. I'm really not in favor of going forward with any type of a bond election at this point. We're 1.5 years into an 8-year extension. I think it's too soon. I think we ought to wait 2 to 4 years, see what projects we've got at that time. The mayor gave us a list of a lot of future projects that we may need the capacity to have some tax revenue. Things like the I-40 interchange, roadway extensions, a lot of roads actually here on this list. Frontage roads, Club Manor roundabout, land for future elementary school, town center, entertainment district. There's a lot of good ideas. There's a lot of things that we're going to have down the road here, and I just hate to see us get mortgaged up here. Just again, we're the current millage doesn't expire until 2020. And like I said, we've got 3 projects underway now. The mayor is very busy with those. We got to do those right. Anyway, that's still my stance on the whole thing, and I'd be interested in the mayor's thoughts on the whole thing too. I'd appreciate if he'd express his opinion as we go. Thank you.
Okay. Alderman Norris.
I wanted to address the issue of the timeline. I completely agree that we shouldn't be rushing just to get it on to the November ballot. But I think it's important to remember why we were shooting for the November ballot is there seemed to be some consensus that we wanted it to be on not a special election, and the reason for that is to be able to give the most people the ability to vote on it, as opposed to throwing it on a special election. So, well, I've learned to never say never in my short time on the city council. I'm really not in favor of a special election, and that, to me, means absent an emergency. If we're talking about waiting, we're talking about waiting until the next, in my opinion, the next primary or general election where we can get a good amount of people there.
Primary is not a good one.
Well, primary is not a good one, but I'd settle for a primary over a special, if we had to do that. General elections, I think, are best. And so I just wanted to address that, and I'm really not sure what is being proposed that maybe we hold off and wait a little bit longer. It's the city hall, Mr. Mayor.
That's just that's the one I was saying that got more than a 50% vote. In fact, I think it got 54%. And hold off only because if we do, I mean, it's a $2 million project here to renovate this building, but if you build a new building, there's no way you can build the new building with the related parking and improvements for $2 million. And so that would be the one that I would say hold back on that got 50% of the vote. That's the only one that I would say. Now, there's a question of do you really need to have a plan put together, but you could be working on that even if the vote was taken, that you go ahead and, and this is based on the Senior Wellness Center passing also, that you've got a plan put together so that either City Hall and the Senior Wellness Center would probably have to be separate buildings. They couldn't be a combined building, or they'd have to be built in such a way that you could add on to them to that effect or something like that.
I guess that was my question. Is I wasn't sure if one of the reasons we wanted to hold off was to think more about that multiplex, and if so, why was it just the City Hall and not also the Senior Center?
And I'm not going to put words in Alderman Lewis's mouth, but my thought was, since the event center had scored so low, you go to a site that's either one level, or because that was a concern that I had actually on the multi-level for City Hall being only on the second floor. So I would think it's all on one level building, or it's two separate buildings. And like I say, you could do a building and then have plans to add on to it at a later date. And that would be my only, to address Alderman Mosley, I do think the baseball fields should be voted on, baseball, softball fields. Senior Wellness, they scored high. I'm not ready to totally throw at City Hall, but I think at this time we don't have a plan if we're moving it to that location. And I proposed the pool 2 years ago. I had heard it from the day I took office that the citizens wanted a pool, and I think the thing to do is put it to a vote of the citizens. It's one of those things. Now, it scored very low in the survey. If 55% of the people voted no and you had a 4%, 10% return, then if you get a 16% return, I think you're going to see similar results on it. Now, I may be totally wrong on that, but I think you're going to see, because the people who return the survey are probably some of the same people that are voting, because if you look, most of them were registered voters when they filled out the survey. But the other ones, I mean, there was no way I would move forward with a pedestrian underpass, overpass at less than 20%. And I don't remember the exact numbers on the event center, but both of those scored fairly low. And I think you've got an issue there simply because we have a facility that will do some of what's done there. It was also below 20% on the phase 2, and it was at 23 on phase 1. You've got the Performing Arts Center at the high school that I think can do a lot of what that the event center can do. Now, it can't do the shows and things like that, but it can do the plays and the performances. And Celebrity Attractions is coming. Arkansas Symphony's coming. Ballet Arkansas is coming. They're all putting on productions at the Maumelle Performing Arts Center. So there's an avenue for outside groups besides the high school to use that facility. And since I'm talking, I'm going to throw one other thing out there. It was mentioned, why didn't the high schools build the swimming pool? They also didn't build the tennis courts. They didn't build the track. They didn't even build the other side of the bleachers. It's a revenue issue for them, too. I mean, they've got just so much money at the high school. So I mean, you know, they were lucky to get the football field in. I think at that facility because they didn't finish their baseball field, they didn't finish their softball field. Maumelle High School plays at our facilities, at our sports facilities. Is where they play baseball and softball, and tennis. So you know, it's not that I don't think the high school didn't want to do it. It's just they didn't have the funds to do it. On a lot of those, they built their basketball courts and got the football field in, which also doubles as a soccer field, so they play their soccer games there. I think it was a great choice to put the AstroTurf down, or whatever you call it now, synthetic turf. We had that discussion the other day, but synthetic turf, just because of the use that it gets. If you didn't have synthetic turf there, you know, the middle school, they'd be limited when they could practice or play on it and things like that. So, but that's, you know, I hope that answers your question on where I stood on it. Alderman Anderson? Oh, I'm sorry, Alderman Kelly. I'm sorry, I missed it. Sorry.
That's all right. We're from the same order. Thank you, Mayor. Question I have is, we're talking this bond initiative is going to go how many years?
Well, it depends on how much money is in it. It's a funding source. You bring in about $2.3 million a year on the 6.6 mills. So if you increase it $8 million, you're going to extend it for another 3 to 4 years, rough numbers. I mean, you got to pay your interest and some things like that. But so.
Okay, well, that's one of my concerns because we already have a 8-year obligation. But I have to agree with Alderman Johnson. I think the people need a chance to vote on these projects. I would support them going to the ballot. But I want to caution the folks that are in favor of the Aquatic Center. I just heard today that the Air Force Base closed one of its pools permanently because of lack of funding. My concern is we build this beautiful multi-million-dollar facility and have to park it because of O&M. And I've heard some figures put out, but also heard Mr. Rayburn tell us that other cities are subsidizing their pools. Now, I don't know what the history is in North Little Rock, but as a councilman, I do not like the idea of putting us in debt. Mr. Rayburn, you have any comment on that? If that's all right with you.
He's comfy.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Alderman Anderson?
Well, given the discussion and the support and non-support of the tax, and definitely we seem to be hitting on a few of the projects that need to go forward, I'd like to make a motion that we put the ball field and the Senior Wellness Center and the pool on our next November ballot for consideration, along with a quarter-cent sales tax, I guess as a separate line.
I would second that.
Okay, I have a motion and second to go forward with a proposal to get a ordinance started on the ball field, Senior Wellness Center, and pool, along with the quarter-cent sales tax. Is there a discussion on that motion? A bunch of lights were already on, so we'll see where we go from here with this discussion. But that's the motion on the floor that we need to be discussing. Alderman Johnson?
One last thing, and I totally agree with the motion, and I think it's a good motion. The one thing on the sales tax that we overlook, and it's been brought up before, like Conway and I think North Little Rock and Little Rock all have a 3% tax that you pay every day when you eat at one of their restaurants, and it goes straight to their parks, and pretty much straight to their parks, I think, and everything like that. So, you know, a 0.25% is not a whole lot when you think about it. When we go eat at North Little Rock, we send them 3%. What's that? tax code.
Advertising and promotion tax, A&P.
That's a whole nother ball game.
Well, and it goes to promotion of the city, and portions of it can go to the parks.
Yeah.
Because it's tourism, is what they say. So.
Christmas tree.
And also, is there a motel tax in that, which we have no motel tax?
Well, it's the A&P taxes can be charged at prepared food, which are restaurants, and a hotel or lodging facility. Yes.
That's about $2 a room any place you go.
You don't understand sign language.
Alderman Hogue?
My comments don't have anything to do with the motion, and so I'll hold it until after.
All right. Alderman Mosley?
Yes, I wanted to just reiterate some of the figures that Philip Rayburn gave us. I'd asked him back there, and I think he gave them to everybody, as far as how many Maumelle and outside Maumelle participants in a number of the sports programs. And I wanted to pass these along because I'm not sure that we are up to full capacity in any of these deals as far as looking at Maumelle residents. The girls softball program, only 42% of the people involved in the program are from Maumelle. Adult softball looks like less than 50% from Maumelle. Maumelle youth baseball looks like 58% from Maumelle, and the one that scored the highest was actually Maumelle youth soccer, 80% from Maumelle. So if you were to apply, just for example, girls softball, we're less than 50% utilized if you're looking at Maumelle residents. So bear that in mind when you're voting on new facilities. Are we here building facilities for a regional basis, or are we here building them for Maumelle residents?
Okay. Thank you, Alderman Mosley. Alderman Lewis?
I would caution, I think having the discussion of putting this being the Indoor Aquatic Center or the Senior Wellness Center or the Diamond Center, moving that motion forward tonight might be a little premature. We still have, I think, about 2 to 3 meetings, perhaps. First one in July, I think, is when we have to get an ordinance going. Is that correct?
Correct.
For a few different reasons. Now, I did mention with Mr. Mayor in a meeting last Friday that I would like to see an ordinance put forward at the second meeting in June to consider the Diamond Center completion. And I could go into the reasons of that, but for purposes of brevity, I'll skip on to the next point, which is at this point you are kind of putting those ordinances on a glide path perhaps a little soon. I mean, are we making this ordinance, this maybe as a point of order, or this motion?
Start the ordinance.
Okay, so to begin them. Okay. But they
would still be on for first reading.
They would be on for first reading, absolutely. And, okay, I mean, I could see that, but going forward, I would be very cautious here because we are leaving one 50+% element out of there, being City Hall. The mayor makes a good point. We have some concerns here related to how we're going to utilize this. There is a cost savings to be had by combining City Hall with the Senior Wellness Center. So in a sense, this motion could possibly segregate those two facilities to where they could not be combined, and thus perhaps losing a savings there. So that's one thing. There were several other comments that I was going to get into related to this, and I think now we need to bring them up before we do vote on this motion. Adding it up, you're looking at about $11 to $12 million that could be on the table for the bond discussion, and I share in some of Alderman Mosley's sort of anxiety about that, I think. That survey, be as it may, you may not like some of the methods in which it was, but I think it did receive a response that's there. But one thing we haven't talked about tonight, and I think that is important not to overlook, is the comments that were on that survey. We haven't discussed that. And if there's one very common denominator, it is traffic. And so, traffic and roads, yes. And so, I would say if you're going to make that kind of a commitment with some credit line that you have, I think maybe this motion right here might be a little premature because we still have another meeting in which to discuss some of these things. Maybe we know a little bit more about the land that we're acquiring at that point. Maybe we know a couple of other certainties. Perhaps not. But to make this now seems a little bit driven by a very good enthusiasm, which I think is important. But I'm worried that we would be boxing ourselves in and that we might not necessarily have to make this decision this evening. We will make this decision. We certainly can look at putting this on there. But let's look at the scenario to say, if we do all of these and there is a consensus amongst this council in one form or another, there could be some yeses and some nos on each issue, to put all of these out there, we are potentially putting $11 to $12 million on the ballot in November. If that passes, where does that leave us with respect to possibly a Carnahan Road extension? Where does that leave us perhaps in looking at a feasibility study for a Maumelle Independent School District? There are other things out there, and I sort of in my mind had thought this up the other day, that perhaps at best we sort of cap ourselves to around a $10 million mark going forward with this bond discussion. That way, it's 2/3, but nevertheless, there's still something there left in reserve, because these comments reflect that. These comments reflect that we somehow may have missed the mark a little bit in this survey. And I don't know if it's something we left off. I don't know that if the survey was necessarily confusing because it was too verbose. But I am hesitant tonight to make these decisions that put us on a glide path when we still have one more meeting. And also, let's think about, there were people that were surveyed here that may not have showed up this evening because they're not interested in the pool. And we may hear from them at the next meeting. And if we put something on a glide path without hearing from that part of the public, I don't know that we've necessarily done them a service. I'm glad that we've had the comments that we've had here this evening. I think that we will have another discussion, or we should have another discussion about any of the projects, I suppose. I don't see us talking about the pedestrian underpass, but there's something to be said for this. But this motion does feel a little bit sort of rushing to the gates with the crowd behind us, I suppose. And that's the length of my concern there. A couple other things I will point out, and this is, I must say, I really like Karen Lamoureux, and I admire her so much. Her energy and enthusiasm that she brings to issues, it's amazing. Karen, at one point tonight, looked at me and said, "We don't have to have the tax." And then later I turned around and looked at her, and she had something that said, "Tax it."
That's what it takes.
Right. And that's the thing, and I hate to see anybody put this toward daggers to say that, any of us have had some sort of predisposition as to how we're going into this. I think we've all approached it with an open mind. I had a hesitancy about this when I first heard about it. I did. And I listened to Ms. Lamoureux. I went to all the bond meetings. And my daughter started swim lessons this past year at the business that Ms. Lamoureux operates. And there is value there. And so at that point, that's when I set out to do the research here to see, okay, how did this work in other communities? Tax, 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 tax. They all had it. And so, as someone said tonight, we don't have to reinvent the wheel here. There's a very good course of this. Today, and in lieu of what I thought was a pretty negative response on this survey for the most part, you can say there was only 40% support, but there was a supermajority of lack of support once an issue of paying for this facility came into the picture. And that's concerning, because that to me says that at its core right now, there is only 33% support in this community for this project. Now, do you sometimes need to do things in the interest of 33%? Sure you do. It could be a value if you see something that can grow. So I'm not discounting that. But in anticipation of possibly us not going this route, I thought, we have seniors at our senior facility that would like to be able to utilize these sort of facilities, and maybe they can't arrange transportation. Today, I went over to North Little Rock, talked with Charlie Baxter, who's the director of the Hayes Center, had a great discussion with him about the possibility of maybe us, and I know, Mr. Mayor, I don't want to jump the gun, but possibility of perhaps Maumelle cooperation with, CATA, or cooperation with our Senior Wellness Center, having a bus service that takes some of our senior wellness members to the Hayes Center once, twice a week, whatever the demand is, to participate again, these are future discussions that we can have. I'm sorry you've made up your mind on that, but again, I'm looking at options here that enhance our life, that might not necessarily overlook some things that the people in the city may value more. And so one of the things that stood out, though, in my conversation with Mr. Baxter was he said, how are you going to pay for that? I said, well, we've got this bond money. And he said, you understand this project, this facility here did not happen without two different tax measures. And I said, well, I didn't know it was two, but I assumed that it was one. And he gave out some very interesting numbers. He said $900,000 is the annual budget of this facility. $600,000 of that comes from the North Little Rock City budget, meaning that the revenue there is $300,000. The revenue is half, or at least a third of the overall budget, and half of what the city's pitching in. It is a senior center. I realize that. I was familiar. I noticed the population when I went in there today. There are other things out there, too, as we look forward to growth that make me nervous. It makes me nervous. Burns Park is a multi-sports facility. They could park a competition pool out there, and we cannot beat them on the size of the budget they draw from. We cannot beat them on the amount of parking that they offer. We cannot beat them on their accessibility to Interstate 40. If they were to put that competition pool in there, that puts a major strain on our pool and the budget revenues that we have there. Again, I'm not dissuading us having this conversation for the next meeting and considering this. I'm not dissuading this crowd from coming. I hope you do. I'm glad you're here tonight. But what I would say is do not box yourself into a corner. And lastly, Ms. Lamoureux has described her business as being very successful, and I would agree with that. It's a great model. If the business success model is there and you are renting facilities now and you have this sort of support within this city, why not encourage a cooperative effort where money is raised at the private level to purchase this pool? And I can tell you right now, as a city council, one of the things that I would consider trying to make happen is perhaps that we donate some land for that if we have available land, that we are a partner in that because we want to be a partner. But at the same time, we don't want to walk out on a fiscal ledge here on something that maybe 33% of our community is really motivated about. And they are motivated, and I think that's wonderful. But do not box yourself into a corner, at least with one more meeting to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Lewis. Alderman Norris.
Oh, boy. What was I going to say? My question was going to be, which seems awkward after what Alderman Lewis said, because I kind of tend to agree. But if we're going to make a motion to put, is this the equivalent of a motion to get the ordinance put on a future?
If I can say, this is a bond ordinance, so this is not something that I can sort of pull together,
right?
On Wednesday afternoon when the agenda goes out on Thursday. So I think that's why it's being treated a little bit differently than just something that shows up on your agenda. Right. I'm going to need to work with Mr. Spivey. He's going to have some time to pull together exactly what the council wants. If we know that beforehand, then particularly if it's going to have a sales tax element to it, that doesn't happen overnight. So I think that the intent of having the discussion and at least the potential for a motion on that topic is to give us that time to pull it together.
Okay, and then my follow-up question is the motion then with the Senior Wellness Center, is that going to, as Alderman Lewis said, possibly lock us into two separate buildings for potential City Hall Senior Wellness Center, or I guess what I'm saying.
But here's the deal. There's not even. They don't have to locate on the 6.04 acres.
No.
Okay, so so I'm not going to sit here tonight and say it either locks us in or it locks us out. I'm not going to say because I don't know. You could design a building and then come back and add a second floor to it, or you could design a building and come back and double the size of it by building adjacent to it. It happens at schools, it happens at office buildings, it happens everywhere. As long as you know going into it that's what you're going to do and you plan accordingly, you could add on to it. If the decision is made we go two separate buildings, then that could be done also too. You just got to make sure that whatever you're doing moving forward, once you get to the construction plan part of it, that it's there and ready to go. Now, you would probably have to beef up the foundation and the beams and everything if you're going to a second floor discussion. That is a totally different thing. And then you've basically built a roof for X number of years and then you throw it away. That's what you're going to do, because you can't just pick it up and move it up. Now, could you build a first floor and have a shell on the second floor for future City Hall? I doubt you could do it in the budget that they have in the Senior Wellness Center budget, because they only took into, or the proposed budget, because they only took into account their facility, not an expansion up above. So, there is probably, Alderman Lewis is correct, there's probably some savings in there if it was planned right now. And that's why I said I don't want us to paint ourselves in the corner that if we go a certain way with the election for the City Hall, then we've kind of painted ourselves into the same corner in the other direction.
I guess my question is, by not including the City Hall, are we painting ourselves out of that corner?
Not necessarily.
No.
So.
No.
Okay.
You could always come back and renovate this building, or you could go in and build a building that's attached.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. Yep. And you're always you're always careful to, right, wrong, or indifferent. We listed land acquisitions as part of the fire station, even though we thought we had a location picked. As it turns out, it's a good thing it was written in there, because the original location that I went forward with is not where it's going to be now. So that's the thing. So you need to put in there anytime, even if we know we've got 6 acres, you need to put in the ballot that it could possibly be used for land acquisition. And here's a scenario, 6 months from now, someone comes in and says, I'll give you $10 a square foot for the rest of that land. Maybe you sell it, maybe the council chooses to sell it. That's not going to happen, but that's always a possibility. Yeah.
Thank you.
Alderman Anderson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My intent for the motion was to get the ball rolling. Mm-hmm. And we obviously, in the discussion that we had, I wanted to try to move forward and not to spin our wheels like that's happened in the past. I still think I want to hold the motion right now, because I do want to give Madam City Attorney a chance to put it together. We're going to have 3 readings. We can make amendments. We can table it. There's all kinds of other things that we can do within that. But what I want to do, and my intent, is to go ahead and move forward with the things that we obviously, no-brainer, want to have. Will we put contingency, or will we word it to where there's land acquisition so that we're not bottled in? That's fine. Those are things that we can work out within the ordinance. What I wanted to do was move forward, and I think Alderman Hogue would like to move that forward too. And so I just wanted to get the ball rolling. And I'm not necessarily trying to hem us in or anything like that, because, like I said, thank God we do things on a 3-reading basis. We don't do it on one night. And so that does give us the time to make discussions, to do amendments, and even table it if we've gone, whoa, we need to change directions. Thank you.
Alderman Johnson?
First of all, we are all making an assumption of one thing. We're assuming that the people will vote for the Aqua Center. But we don't know that. I mean, we're guessing. We're just giving people a chance to say what they want. We make certain assumptions, and, you never know how they're going to come out until the people truly say what they want. And if they come out and say they want it, so if they don't want it, we've not lost anything by taking it to them. There is one project, and Alderman Lewis mentioned it. I believe there's one project in this city that we could get a 1%, we might even get a 2% sales tax passed for it. And that's fixing the traffic on the boulevard. I mean, if everybody, that's the number one complaint and everything like that. And I think the people have come to bat if we have a solution and everything like that. I don't know, but that's the way the results came in. Everybody was bitching about the traffic, and the mayor hears about it every day, I'm sure, and everything. If you go out at 7:30 in the morning, you're probably complaining about it. But we've got to step out and do something and everything like that. And whatever the results are, we can deal with them. I truly believe that. We're smart enough that we can deal with them. And number one, we're making an assumption that a senior wellness center in a city hall is the perfect place. Well, the mayor gets to looking at it, it may not be a perfect fit. But a bunch of old people upstairs or downstairs and senior city hall upstairs, he may say, maybe the courts are a better fit. And I say that because he has mentioned at different times one of the projects is the court house, if we're going to sell that property down there. So, I think we're making a big step tonight in getting this in the works. And like you said, we can alter it as we go along, and the people's going to have the final say. If they vote for the Aqua Center, we got it, and we're going to live with it. Now, I think the sales tax needs to be separate down there because I don't think you need to burden that all the way with it. But, that's just my opinion.
Alderman Saunders.
Thank you, Mayor. Gosh, we've had a lot of good conversation tonight. And a lot of things have been brought up that are somewhat new thoughts to me. I would also like for other people to have opportunity to digest those thoughts and express their opinion if they so desire. In that interest, first, Ms. Davis, you indicated that it's going to take you an extended amount of time in order to create this ordinance compared to other types. I understand that. If we were to put this off until next meeting, would that put you in a bad situation?
I mean, it's going to be mostly Mr. Spivey working on this because he's bond counsel, and that's primarily his role. I'll be working with him. He's done a lot of this. I really couldn't say whether the more time the better, but that doesn't mean it can't happen after the next meeting. So I'm not suggesting that you have to do something tonight to make it work. We'll do our best to make it work however you present it.
And I know that you would. I wouldn't want us as council to put y'all in such a bind that you're going to lose nights of sleep over trying to make this happen. And but I also Alderman Lewis said some things I have to agree with. He took the words out of my mouth. Of course, he's a lot more eloquent than I am, but I'm kind of concerned about us moving this quick on it. If we can buy one more meeting, and I'm not saying it's not going to happen. I'm not saying we need to put it off forever. I just don't, if you run too fast, you tend to trip and fall, okay? And I would like for other people to have opportunity to think about this too. So I don't see any big difference between doing it tonight and doing it next meeting as long as it doesn't put you in a bad situation. And I would hold that by next meeting we do need to get started because of our time frames. So, thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Alderman Saunders. All right. Now, and I wrote down that you said hold the motion. Now, I didn't really understand what you meant by that in your last comments.
When he says hold the motion, I think he means he wants to leave.
I want to continue with the motion.
Okay, all right. Yeah, you said the words hold, and so I was okay. All right, okay. I wanted to clarify. Continue with the motion. Okay.
In other words, I'm not going to retract it.
Okay, and all right, and that's what I want to make sure. Now, Alderman Hogue had asked. She said it wasn't on that, but now she wants. Yeah.
I want to speak on this now. I still got something else to speak on. What I wanted to say is, I don't really have any heartburn if we held it, and maybe if we held it until the next meeting, maybe we would have some sort of decision on what we wanted to do about City Hall. And I know Madam City Attorney says that the 2-week delay she doesn't think will affect their ability to get the motion together. So If that would be agreeable to you, I would withdraw my second. If it's not agreeable, then I'll keep my second.
I say we just go ahead and vote with it. If it's passed, if it's
Doesn't pass,
then we'll
do it
just
again
go
next
on. Yeah.
time. Okay.
Okay. All right. Let me say one thing too, and something that hadn't even been discussed at all that will have to be a part of the ordinance to put it on the election is a refinance of the current bond issue. That question will have to be there also. So that when you're sitting there saying we want this motion to have these items on it, you're also going to have a refinance. That's the number one question I think it asks. And if that fails, then nothing can happen, basically. So I just want that very clear in all this discussion that's usually the first item is to allow the citizens to refinance or vote to refinance. But that's usually a question, and that's a Mr. Spivey question, and we're probably going to, Madam City Attorney works with him closely, but I went back and looked at our calendar. He said draft ordinance by July 1. He's probably going to start working on this anyway, and the number one item is that refinance anyway. So he's got to make sure that language is correct. He's got to go back and pull all the information from our current bond issue and things like that. So, no matter what happens, he's probably going to start on some of it and then specifics on writing it. But I went back and looked at the calendar, and it said draft ordinance by July 1 is what it mentioned. So just want to point that out there. Alderman Lewis?
Well, another thing that per conversations that I've had with Madam City Attorney, and I would expect that if we will have all those ordinances at that next meeting, we will have the sales tax question at the meeting as well.
That's what was in the motion.
And I don't know that Mr. Spivey can do all that by the next meeting. So
that's why.
Yeah.
I say
Well, I didn't say by the next meeting.
Yeah. Well, there's that's what I'm saying. I mean, there's discussion now. I do think, and I think I looked. I think we get an extra month or extra Monday. Is that right? In June.
No.
In June, don't we? Is that right?
Please.
Please. I need a break.
Yes, we do.
Okay, I thought that.
The 30th falls on a Monday.
Yeah, so I mean, there's 3 weeks between the 16th meeting and the first meeting in July. So, I'm just trying to put everything out there so that we actually have a little more time. So we've actually got 5 weeks between this meeting and the first meeting in July. So we're hitting this at a perfect time as far as timing for Ms. Davis and Mr. Spivey as far as addressing some things. But
And I've raised the issue of the added sales tax element to him, and we've involved him in that discussion, so he's aware of that's out there.
But that may take a little more research than
will.
a standard bond
Right,
issue
it
too.
will.
So
That's always been my idea is that these two will run concurrently.
Right.
It's like a horse and the stable pony. They're going to run side by side with each other all the way to the election. I, as an alderman, will tell you, because I discussed this with Mr. Spivey, I said, can you make them contingent? And he thought that there was a method in which that could be done, but nevertheless, even, let's say, if it could not be done, he said disclosure is everything. Your disclosure to the people as to the will of your council going in is everything. So I can tell you right now, as an alderman, if we come out of November's election and the pool passes for the bond measure, but the sales tax fails, I will not vote to fund those bonds. To me, that is going off a fiscal cliff that I don't want to even explore. Now, one other thing, and I will offer a amendment to the motion, which is to make a motion that we include the City Hall renovations in that subsequent discussion that we would have at our next meeting. I'm not comfortable looking at two projects that are plus 50%, another one that's at 40%, and then just saying, well, we shelved this one because we didn't like the flavor of it at the meeting. We had survey results that indicated that. I don't think that changes anything necessarily. I personally do not want to renovate this building, but I think we should have that as part of the discussion, so I make that motion.
I second the motion.
Okay.
We vote on the amendment.
Motion.
all right. I've got an amended motion now to add City Hall project to the original motion that was allowing for the ball fields, the senior wellness center, and the pool, and the quarter-cent sales tax to move forward with the ordinance drafting. Is there any discussion on that motion? Alderman Hogue, I don't know.
No,
Okay, all right.
Talk.
All right.
Never gonna get to talk.
All right. All those in favor of the, oh, sorry, lights are coming on. Alderman Saunders.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, I did get a second.
I do have a question. If we go ahead and pass this right now, then we have to, we're going to have another discussion at the next city council meeting. Are we
You're-
then going to, aren't we?
Well, you're going to have discussions at the next 3 or 4
Well, I understand
council
the three
meetings.
readings.
But ordinance
I've
is
been
on the
around
agenda.
A few years, I understand that.
Yeah.
But I don't want to see us get boxed into anything here. Now, we're going back to where I was. We're going to discuss this at the next meeting, but we're already drafting the ordinance. And if we discuss it at the next meeting and we come back with a lot of changes, have we really gained anything tonight? That's for you.
In order to get boxed in, you've got to create the box first. And so I need a little time to create the box. And I think that's really what all this does. You're not supporting the motion. You're not supporting the ordinance necessarily. You're not passing the ordinance by doing this tonight if you choose to do that. You're just essentially giving me the go-ahead to start on the drafting. You may, at the next council meeting, say, take the City Hall project off, or take the pool off, or take the sales it's always easier for us to take something off than to add something in at the last minute.
Okay.
So it's just helping us in timing.
Did we have a second on his motion?
We did.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Alderman Anderson seconded it. All right. But, and she's exactly right. It's a whole lot easier. I mean, the body of the ordinance is going to be the same. I mean, you're going to read this thing talking about election and all this. It's going to be the same. Then what you're going to have is you're going to have question number 1, question number 2, question number 12. I mean, I don't know where it stops down here, but whatever one you get to. So basically, the council then, at the first reading of the ordinance, could say remove question 1. And then basically you're going to go back and just renumber is all you're going to do, but that question goes away. So she's correct. I mean, you got to prepare this ordinance and get the body of it, and then basically you're going to remove or add a question. Okay. Is basically what you're going to do.
And I can support that. Okay. Thank you.
Any other discussion on the motion to amend the original motion to add City Hall to it? If not, all those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no.
No.
Motion passes.
That's just the first
That's just the amendment.
Yeah, that's just the amendment on
Yeah.
the motion. So then that brings
Okay.
it for the motion.
I got to go up here. Golly.
Sorry.
No problem. All right. The motion on the floor now is to draft an ordinance that contains the ball fields, the senior wellness, the pool, quarter-cent sales tax, and the City Hall projects. Alderman Lewis?
Alderman Anderson, you made some great points, and I think now the point is that we aren't necessarily boxing ourselves in. What I will say is that I would like, and I don't like to do this because we are going forward with a lot of unknowns, but not for the next meeting, but the following meeting. I would like to explore a possible ordinance with a combined City Hall and Senior Wellness Center. And so that's one of those things I wouldn't expect that at the next meeting, but I think that if we forego that cost savings there, if we forego, I think, part of the rationale in which we went upon the purchase of that property, then we're sort of going in divergent directions. So I will be supporting the motion that you've made. I think you've thought it out very well, and I've appreciated the debate.
Okay. Alderman Hogue, you're...
I'll just go ahead and before we could have voted before. What I wanted to say is someone said something about, it was back when we were talking about maybe not getting City Hall on the ballot right then, and there might be a special election or something. I just wanted to let everybody know about the annexation. We have hit a snag. It's going to be a while before we can even consider the annexation, and we certainly don't want to wait 2 more years. So I would anticipate a special election for the annexation if and when we, not if, but when we get there. Just want you to be, I know we don't like special elections, and I agree
Well,
with
now,
you,
well, you don't necessarily have to have an election for an annexation.
Well,
Now, if you're talking about the sewer project, that's a
Sewer
okay.
project.
Okay, all right, okay,
Bond.
okay, all right. So
We
yeah,
may
make
not have any money left by then. I don't
make that very clear because it's not a vote on an
But it's
annexation.
the bond issue if
Okay,
we are.
okay, all right. Okay, the motion on the floor now is to draft an ordinance that includes the ball field, the senior wellness, the pool, the quarter-cent sales tax, and the city hall projects. Is there a discussion on that motion?
Point of order, I don't think the quarter-cent sales tax was part of the motion.
yeah, it was.
It was.
Was? Okay, stand corrected. Withdraw.
Yeah, I wrote it down.
You did good.
All right. Okay, is there any more discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
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 Any opposed, say no.
No.
Motion passes. I will get with Mr. Spivey tomorrow, or let Miss Davis get with him, and they'll start working on the project then. Okay. That concludes that. The next item is the Parking and Traffic Committee report. The Parking and Traffic Committee report met on May the 29th at 6 p.m. and discussed three items. The first item that we discussed was a requested four-way stop at Arnold Palmer Drive and Barber Drive and Barber Cove. After lots of discussion, input from the citizens that were present, the committee voted 5-2 to not place a four-way stop at that intersection. The other item that was discussed was traffic concerns at the intersection of Odom Boulevard North and Ridgeland Drive and Naylor Drive, and then also traffic concerns at the intersection of Odom Boulevard North and Diamond Point Drive. There was no formal action taken by the committee. Public Works was going to look at clearing some vegetation, and I think they did some of that on Friday.
It helped a lot.
Yeah, it helped? Okay, all right. So they did that, and then they're also looking into possibly some caution lights for those intersections is what they've looked at. So getting prices on that and see possibly using solar-type lighting to do that. So if there's no other questions on that, we'll move forward. The next item is mayor's comments at the memorial. I've got listed there the Memorial Day ceremony. We had about 250 people attend our Memorial Day ceremony on Memorial Day. Colonel Ader of the 189th Airlift Wing of the Little Rock Air Force Base was our keynote speaker, did a great job. And the field of flags were back. We'd actually thought we were going to lose those, but that's a very touching scene when you go out there and there's 120 flags, and each one of them has a story because in front of each flag is a picture of a service member that has died since 9/11. That's related to Arkansas, has some kind of Arkansas connection, and it's very moving if you go out there at night when the lights are on it. But it was a great event and well attended, and we tried to keep it under about 35-40 minutes, and we did that also because it was starting to warm up pretty good out there. And ever since that event, it's rained almost every day, so we dodged the rain showers that day. I added one more comment under mayor's comments. The Sky Zone opened on Friday. Not sure if y'all are aware of that or not, but Sky Zone was a trampoline fitness center. So basically they've got all kinds of trampolines in there to do basketball dunking, to play dodgeball on, to just jump and do fitness on. And it's a very bright place. They opened at 11 o'clock, or they announced at 11 o'clock they're going to open at noon. I went out there at about 3 o'clock. They had about 30 kids in the facility. So they posted on Facebook. So if you don't believe Facebook works, it works. So, but that's how they did their opening on it. But it's and I've just been given an email or text or whatever that was. Anyway, mention Relay for Life too. Relay for Life Friday night, we had a great event. They raised over $53,000 for the American Cancer Society, and the rain actually caused a change of venue for that. They had to move from the soccer fields to inside the community center. And at one point in time, you couldn't move inside the community center. We filled the track up to where you couldn't move at all. But that was a really good event. They raised actually over $14,000 the night of the event. So very good event, and a lot of Maumelle residents participated in it. It's annual tradition in Maumelle. So, all right, Planning Commission report. Alderman Hogue.
There was one item on the agenda. It was the same item we dealt with in Resolution 2014-27, which was the conditional use permit for the adult daycare. And as they told you, it passed unanimously with the Planning Commission, and I guess it passed unanimously with the council tonight.
Thank you very much. Alderman's comments. Alderman Johnson.
There was something impressive, and maybe it's been there and I didn't pay as much attention at the Memorial Day service, but they had a statue that had boots and a helmet, and I thought it added a lot to it, and I don't know if it belongs to the guys that bring in.
It's part of the Field of Flags,
right.
Yes.
I sure, one of these days, I would like to see us consider maybe duplicating that and having it as part of the Veterans Memorial. It's a very impressive piece.
And I wasn't in the military. I don't know what they call that, but that's the salute that they pay to a fallen comrade. Basically, his boots and helmet and weapon are there. So, is it just a memorial, or come on, guys, military guys, tell me what that is? Okay, all right.
I think when they do the roll call, it's out there.
It's traditional.
Okay, all right.
They have a permanent one on the base.
Right, yeah, it's really big. Theirs at the base is very, very large. Yes.
Is there any way we could find out how much one would cost, and if we had to raise the money, we could, see if everybody would want something.
I'm sure we can get a cost on that.
And I don't know that the city could buy it, but maybe we could independently fund it.
Okay.
And call it general.
Let me check on the cost first on that and see.
It impressed me. I don't know about everybody else.
Alderman Hogue.
Since we're talking about raising money, there's something that has been brought to all of our attention, I think, and I just want to remind everybody about it, and that is Wallace Wyeth served many years with the Planning Commission, and a group of people contacted all of us with cards, I think, wanting to know when the bench would be put in front of the community center in memoriam of him. I did speak with the mayor about it, and he said that revenue is the reason we haven't done it. He says the bench would cost about $1,000, and I think you said you had about $200.
Left over last year, yes, that's correct.
And what I had been intending to do, and I just want to throw it out here tonight, is I would like to see if we could raise that $1,000 to purchase that bench and get it installed. His wife is concerned that pretty soon all of the people who were on the council and planning commission when he was serving will no longer be there, and they won't remember who he was. So just food for thought. I do plan to see if we can get together and work out something.
Well, Alderman Johnson brought to me some copies of a bench that they purchased and a memorial that they got that's going to reduce that cost down to about $300. If I think I remember right, I'm not looking at that work, but I think that's about right.
Well, if you've got $200, I think you can go ahead and order it.
Well,
I think I could come up with $100.
Okay, all right.
Well, then I'll help you do that.
Now the problem is, do I have that left over at the end of the year? Now, that's going to be the deal. Is how much?
If it's $300, I suspect that we can come up with that between now and budget time.
Right. Parks Department assembled it and put it in concrete.
Well, now wait a minute. You didn't tell me that they had to assemble it. Now you're asking me to call in a favor from Parks and Rec Department.
Well, I bet they'd do it.
Well, they'll do it. There's no doubt about that. But yeah.
I'll be contacting each of you separately, and the Planning Commission. We'll see where we are.
I think we'll be there.
Alderman Lewis?
I've spoken with one individual, not on the council, but one private individual has shown some interest in making a donation for that already. I haven't gotten back with Mrs. Wythe yet, but just had that conversation about a week ago. And furthermore, I mean, if it seals the deal, I am perfectly willing to take $50 out of my alderman pay from the council to help see that through. I think it's a good thing and a good honorarium. Thank you.
I'll get with you, Alderman Lewis, and we'll get that worked.
I'll get to you.
Get with me too.
All right. Any other alderman's comments? Madam City Attorney? Mr. City Clerk? All right. Normally don't do this, but if you'll look at the sales tax reports, the sales tax revenues were way up. They'd been down kind of the month before. I think it's just people not returning their amounts when they should type deal. So I think it just shifts into the next month sometimes. So I think we saw an increase this month, but I think it was because it was down the month before. So the only thing I want to say, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We've got a second. We got a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes. Yes.
Any opposed, say no. Meeting is adjourned.
Yes, sir. Oh.
That's all they did, yes. And
Okay.